connection here that I don't think many of you know about. And also, just our family in terms of this strange odyssey that we've had. Uh, we were raised in the Churches of Christ, which is the Campbellite movement. It's the more conservative wing. I went to Abilene Christian University, Pepperdine University, and so forth. But early on after college, I began to think about a more Judaic or Hebraic, I prefer. Judaic sounds sectarian, like, what are you, Jewish or something? Betty is Jewish. I'm a human being. No labels, as I've told you. But a Hebraic. And there are different etymologies of Hebrew, but one popular etymology is one who passes over. Passes over what? From the Euphrates, from Babylon into the land of Israel, as it later was called, but the land of Canaan, as it was called at that time. It's very connected to Abraham. Abraham is the Hebrew, the first Hebrew. So you can see the connection there when I talk about Abrahamic faith. But Betty married a preacher. This is not Roger. This is her first marriage. A Church of Christ preacher. So I got a Church of Christ preacher uh, marrying my daughter, and I'm moving towards a Hebraic kind of thing. You know, Jesus didn't know much about Easter, Christmas, or the Lord's Supper, or even a New Testament. Never went to church, but he'd probably feel pretty at home in the Jewish quarter even today on Shabbat, smelling that bread baking and everything. And I just remember this, and this isn't the topic, and I'll go fast here because it's another whole subject. Let's talk about it tonight. Betty and her husband Steve were appalled that I was turning back to the Old Testament as it was understood. And I don't blame them for that understanding. And that was probably 1966 or 7. So you figure out the math, it's a long time. And now I'm sitting here introducing my Jewish sister. Now you say, oh, well, boy, you really had an influence on her. No, I wasn't the influence. It went on for decades. Oh, well, James, you know him. He's off into that Old Testament. And I called it the only Testament. So OT is fine with me, but you know, if Jesus, let's say we're going to go with Jesus. He never read that New Testament, right? He talked about the law and the prophets. So to me, to hold this book, you got to understand, in my hands. First, Betty wrote a book. I wish my father and mother could know that. My father never saw any of my books. My mother saw two of them. But I'm telling you, it means a lot to me, and it's so beautiful. Such a beautiful. And Don, as the copy editor and productive director, I thank you for so much, and Daniel Wright and others. It's a beautiful book. And I've read it twice, and I learned a lot from this book. I thought my sister has really delved into things, and it's about the times and seasons of the Hebrew Bible. Uh, and basically, people say, "Oh, you mean the holidays?" It is so much more than that. It's a whole system, a kind of a networking for understanding how that Abrahamic faith actually worked historically and anciently. Um, so, but the story about Roger I want to tell. Roger died in 2022 in September. Is we went up for David Horowitz's 90th birthday, the 50th anniversary of UIW, and this is our 81st, but 80th year, as we've explained. And Roger went with us. Betty didn't go. Now, they had both joined a synagogue in San Antonio, Rabbi Scheinberg. Tim, you know that because you were also part of that. This rabbi in Texas all of a sudden had these 15, 20 Gentiles coming to him, and they'd come through a teacher in it wasn't Louisiana, it's Texas still, right? Joe Good, yeah, close to Louisiana, and in Beaumont, and they wanted to find a Jewish path, and they all did. It's an amazing story. So anyway, Roger went up with us. Ralph, you were there. Um, it was a wonderful time, but Roger filmed it, and guess what? I found the film. It's a VHS, and the quality is not great, but I'm going to talk to Seth, and we'll digitize it, and we'll edit it, but you have Horowitz speaking at age 90. So you're going to love it. You're not going to believe how, oh, powerful he was. Now, Ross, you weren't with us yet then, so you weren't there. The Tylers weren't with us, but Ralph was there, and I think you were there too, yeah. Timotheus. Timothy was there, but Roger drove up with us, and so I'll never forget that. So he actually was with us, uh, and I just wish he could be here today with us. But uh, Betty said she was a, what did you call it, a baller or a crier?
Yeah,
She's not. She's
a
not.
weeper.
Betty has something very substantive to say. It could be emotional. We don't really care. But I want her to tell you about this book. I've seen her outline. I can't wait for you to hear this. And especially that Betty's a school teacher, so she knows how to get your interest. Wonder what what's going on here. So Betty, get up here and tell us about your book. Okay, go girl.
Okay. Oh my goodness. Ah. Okay. Shabbat Shalom. And it is the great Shabbat. It's Shabbat Hagadol, the Sabbath before Passover. There's a great quote that when I first read it, I thought, this is what I'm going to start with. The mind is a wonderful thing. It starts working the moment you're born and never stops until you get up to speak in public. And it's by Jacob M. Broad, excuse me. Every time I get up to teach or speak or whatever, I like to quote from Psalm 19:15. And it says, "May the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable to you, or in your sight, O Hashem, Yud-He Vav-He, the force of all forces, my rock and my redeemer." So that's my prayer, that my words will be acceptable. I would like to read the dedication to my book, dedicated to my husband. And he would be smiling. He would be so happy. And here I go, but I'm okay. To my beloved husband and soulmate. Here I go. I'm okay. Roger Lee William Gibbon, a blessed memory without whose encouragement this endeavor would not have been possible. He was born October 4th, 1942, and he died September 18th, 2022. You know, there's a saying that there's that dash on a headstone between the birth and the death. That's the most important thing. That's the life. And Roger lived a beautiful life. I was his third wife. He said I was his charm. So for that, I'm thankful. Now, just to, with the 18 in Hebrew, most of y'all who know, I should speak proper English. Most of you know that 18 in Hebrew numerically is Chai, which means life. And I feel like that was a blessing from the Creator, that this is when his breath was taken away, and that he passed, not away, really, but he passed from death to life because he's back home, I believe, with his Creator. He passed from it to another dimension. Now, I didn't come to make anybody smile, I mean, cry. So, see, including me. So, so let me begin. I want to begin with a story to make you smile, because this makes me smile every time I get so sad I don't think I can stand it anymore. This is a story of when Roger and I first met. As James said, I was married for 19 years to a Church of Christ preacher. So here I'm walking the line doing da 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 da. And we got a divorce. It's a long story, but anyway, he left. I was devastated. I didn't know what to do with myself. I didn't want to go anywhere. I didn't want to see anybody. I just wanted to. I had 3 daughters, and I was a mother. I took care of my kids. Well, I had a good friend who said, "Betty, you've got to get out of the house. You've got to come to this Bible study with me. Just come. It's okay." No, I don't want to go. Well, she pretty much came to my house, got me clothes, put them on, let's go. So we went. I met this man, this Roger. He was still wearing a wedding ring after 10 years of being divorced. So you think he wasn't still in love with his wife? He was. I was still in love with my ex-husband. Anyway, we just kind of, I can't explain it. We got into a conversation and just kept talking and talking and talking and talking, and found out we had so much in common. And I was so comfortable because I thought, this guy's not going to hit on me. I'm not interested in a relationship. So he said, well, I'd like to walk you to the door. So he walks me to the door, and he leans forward, and he put his hand on my shoulder, and he turned to give me a little peck on my cheek. Well, I went like this. He got me right here. I turned around, 90-degree turn, opened the door. I'm in a closet. It was dark in that closet. I didn't want to come out. I was petrified. And I thought, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? It seemed like an eternity. And I thought, I've got to open the door. I've got to come out. I can't stay in here forever. So I opened the door, expecting everybody to be laughing their heads off. Well, I looked at Roger. He had a big smirk on his face, but nobody was laughing. And so I just went to the front door and went out. Anyway, that's our story. That's how we met. So now maybe I can get through this without crying anymore. But I just thought I would share that story because it's a wonderful, happy story. I want to start with saying that Roger has always been what I call my rainbow. I'm beginning this with a rainbow, and at the end, you're going to see there's another rainbow. It's very significant. Life is a mix of opposites. There's tears and joy. There's sorrow and pain. There's all kinds of happy and suffering and whatever. But think about the rainbow. There's rain, and then the sun comes shining through, and what does it make? A beautiful prism of colors. Well, I always think of the rain as tears. For me, it was my tears or your tears when you're sad. And then all of a sudden something wonderful happens, and you just feel, here comes the sun, and there's joy, and there's this beautiful rainbow, and you go, wow. And that's what Roger has been to me and still is. So I would like to read from the back cover of the book because this gives the really the purpose and a brief description. connect to the Creator, and tap into His divine timeline set from the beginning. Join me in a journey of discovery of the hidden sparks beneath the surface as we travel from Sabbath to Sabbath and new moon to new moon through the times and seasons presented in the Hebrew Bible and the stories and rich Jewish traditions that have accompanied them through the ages. And so, this is a book about the Hebrew Bible. Incorporated in this book, I've incorporated some traditions that have been very meaningful to me. And in the book, I make sure that when it's a tradition, I let people know this is a tradition. It's not in the Bible. You can take it or you can leave it. I personally love a lot of the traditions. A lot of them I don't. So I do the ones I love and I don't do the ones that don't appeal to me. So what I want to do is hit a few key points on this journey, starting from the beginning, and hopefully you can meet me somewhere along the way. We're all in different places, and that's okay. I think it's a good thing because we all learn from one another. This is not in the book, but every time we have a conference of this sort, and we've had one every year except for a few years with COVID and things like that. Before we go, everybody comes. I have this vision of everybody converging to one place. And I think of it as like a microcosm or a rehearsal of what's going to come at the dress rehearsal. I mean, it's a dress rehearsal. What's going to come at the real redemption? Everybody's going to come from all walks of life. We're all different. That's okay. We're all loved. We're all children of God. And so I look at your faces, and I really think I can smile and get through this because I know you're with me, and we're all one. And now, if you look at the picture on here, I had said that there's a clue in my book, and on the cover, that gives us something to think about. If you look at the picture, you will see the menorah. And you know that it's all one piece of gold, all together, like a oneness. There's a central staff, and all of the branches branch out from either side. The thing that is so unusual about it, and I did not ask my cover artist, Daniel Wright, to do this. He did it on his own, and I think it's absolutely amazing. I was reading the Torah portion from Terumah about the tabernacle and the construction of the menorah. And as I was reading it, it said, that you light the candles so that the wicks are all turning to the center. I just happened to look down on my coffee table where my book was, and I thought, oh, wow, Daniel Wright, a shout out to Daniel Wright. You did this. You made it perfect. It's perfect. It's such a good example of who we are and who our Creator is and how we're all one, and we're all looking to the center. We're all looking towards Him. So, now, I would think that, I have to say this. This was in Ross's book, and I love it. He said, there's a saying, don't judge a book by its cover. Well, I think you need to judge my book by its cover, because if you judge it by its cover, you'll love it. And I wrote this. The only reason I wrote this was to glorify my Creator. And so judge it by its cover. It's beautiful, and our Creator is beautiful, and He is just wonderful beyond measure. So judge it by its cover. And in the preface of my book, I write, I was born asking questions. Dave, Mom and Dad used to tell me that my grandfather, whom we affectionately call Daddy Jim, used to shake his head and say, "That little Betty Kay can ask questions that even God can't answer." Of course, that was tongue in cheek, but that's, pretty much I've been asking questions all my life, and I haven't found all the answers, and I'm still looking. My first question was, why am I here? What am I supposed to do? Well, I'm a mother. I raise my children. Okay, now my children they left home. They're married. They have kids of their own. Their kids have kids. I've seen 3 generations, 3, 4. I can't even count. Anyway, so we all have questions. And I would say that if we ever stop questioning, that's when we stop learning. Now, I would guess that that's not a problem with anyone here in this room. Else, why would you be here, right? You're all asking questions because inquiring minds want to know. We want to know the answers. But the thing about it is, once we get an answer, well, that brings another question. So it's an ongoing thing, and hopefully I'll be asking questions and you will too until the day that you take your last breath, because questions are how we learn, and we can all learn from one another. So you may ask, what are these hidden sparks? What's it all about? Well, I brought this little gift. And I'm a preschool teacher, used to be a preschool teacher. And I would always teach by using a visual aid, because when you see something, you can hold it in your hand. It's real. It's a concept that you're trying to understand. So you teach a little child, you can see it, maybe you can hear it, maybe you can smell it, maybe you use all of your senses. God gave us these senses. So what's inside? Well, I don't know. Do you? If we want to find out what's inside, we have to open the box. Now, I'm not going to open the box right now, because each one of you have a gift box, and it's you. It's your life. What's inside is who you are. It's God's gift to you, and what you make of that gift is your gift back to Him. So if we don't ever open our boxes, if we don't ever ask our questions, if we just set the box back on our desk somewhere, then pretty soon it's going to just blend in with everything else, and we're not even going to notice it anymore. How many of us go through life like that, on autopilot? Get up in the morning, get dressed, eat breakfast, we go through the day. Every day is a gift. And to me, that would be a huge insult. If you gave me a good gift and thank you, Ralph, and I just put it right here and never opened it, I would be insulting you. I think we insult our Creator when we don't look into ourselves to see what He's given us and see what we can do for Him, see what our purpose is, see why we were created. At every turn, our lives link us to Hashem, to our Creator. Every time we turn around. There's a poet, Elizabeth Barrett Browning, you all probably know. She wrote a poem, and it says, "Every common bush is afire with God, but only those who see take off their shoes." Okay, the rest sit around and pick blackberries. Okay, blackberries are great, but what are blackberries going to do in your life, right? And then there's a quote from Job, Job 9:11. Now, this quote makes me cry every time, but I've already cried today, so I'm not going to do it again. I'm going to try. It's a very gripping passage, and it speaks profoundly of the importance of always keeping our eyes open and our hearts and minds open to the divine presence of God, because He's here. He's in you and me. He's all around us everywhere. Job says, "Behold, He passes by. and I see him not. He moves on, but I do not perceive him. Oh, how much we miss when we fail to recognize that our God and Creator is in all of us and everything around us. It's like we're like passengers on a train, looking out the window, just going along, da, 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 oh, na, 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 and nothing gets our attention. There are signs all around us. If you go outside at night, you look into the heavens, what do you say? What do you see? He gave us the moon. He gave us the sun. He gave us the stars. This is just at night, the moon and stars. But there was something I saw on Facebook that I loved, and it had pictures of phases of the moon. And it says that the moon taught me that it's okay to go through phases. The sun taught me that no matter how many times I go down, I can keep rising. I love this. And I posted this on my Facebook page. And someone wrote, and the stars taught me that I too can shine. And I thought, that's beautiful. I love that. So, what is a spark? A spark I define as an aha moment. Sometimes they're big, sometimes they're little, but they're all around us. My first aha moment that I can remember was back in the late 80s. And I was reading from Genesis 1:14. And all of a sudden, this verse got my attention. And God said, "Let there be lights in the firmament of heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and seasons and days and years." Well, what's that? That's winter, spring, summer, and fall, right? Signs and seasons, days and years, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday? No. I learned a little Hebrew, and I learned, a sign is an oat. It's something special that Hashem gives us. He gave us the moon for a sign. He gives us all kinds of signs. The word for season is moed or moedim, appointments that we're to meet with him. So he gave us these signs and seasons. So what are we going to do? Oh, I'm not interested in those. I'm not going to do that. I'm a Sunday girl. I'm not going to pay any attention to anything else. I'm going to do what I want to do. So anyway, this verse was really the impetus for this book, the signs and the seasons. And I just became so enthralled with trying to figure out what in the world are these? What are these appointments? What are these signs? What am I supposed to be doing with my life? So in the beginning, when Hashem created the world, gave us what I call a divine timeline. And I'm wearing my string of pearls. Roger gave them to me. They're very special. I write in my preface or the introduction that the string of pearls is symbolic of each month. Now, there's a lot more than 12 pearls on this string, so you have to go with me here. But each month is connected to the next. And if one is missing, then we're missing something because all of the months are interrelated. And the time in this divine timeline is cyclical. And God didn't need time. You could say he created it in a way for us so that we could keep track of these days and seasons and months and years and gear our lives to him. So he's giving us here a way to sync our lives with his timeline. He set it up. And so, we're each created in his image, and we each have like a little spark in us. It's like our little gift. We each have one. So we're supposed to use it. And as each as each new month occurs, we see this tiny sliver of the new moon. Now, in the beginning, the new moon, we don't see it, it's hidden, right? It's the beginning of the month, but we don't see the sign yet, so we have to look. And when we go outside and see the new moon, wow, that's the beginning of a month. And so to me, it bridges the gap like between the past and the present, between the months and the month. The divine hand is at work in the times and the seasons, and it's an invitation for us to look at them and to connect with them. What can we learn from the Sabbath? What can we learn from the new moon as we go from month to month? Now, Ross said that there's some Jewish calendars over there. If you look at the Jewish calendar, you'll notice that the first month is called Tishrei. Well, the name Tishrei is not even in the Bible, okay? You can look high and low and you won't see it. It has another name. But then losing my thought here, but I'm going to be okay. If you go through these months on this calendar, you'll see all these names like Tishrei and Heshvan and Kislev and Tevet and Shavat and Adar 1 and 2. This year we had 2, a leap year. And then you come to the month we're in now called Nisan. So why are these names? These are Babylonian names, all except for a few. And you go through, there's a few more months left, but they're Babylonian. So why would you have Babylonian names on a Jewish calendar? Anybody know? I mean, why? Well, in the Babylonian Talmud, Nachmanides explains, and there's a quote by Rabbi Posner that I want to read because I think it's a good explanation. Now, if I were naming the months, I would name them the 1st, the 2nd, the 3rd, the 4th, just like the days of the week. We don't need the Babylonian names. Well, apparently, some people thought that we did. And what it says is that the Jerusalem Talmud tells us that the Babylonian names came up, especially the one of Tammuz, came up to Israel with the returnees from Babylon. Why did they continue to do it? Because Hashem wanted us to remember our freedom from Babylon. Okay? He says that, and quotes from Jeremiah 16:14. Therefore, behold, days are coming, says Hashem, when it shall no more be said, as Hashem lives that brought the children of Israel out of Mitzrayim, but as Hashem lives that brought the children out of the north. So he says that we don't want to just remember the Exodus, we need to remember the thing of Babylon. Well, why do we need a Babylonian name to remember? Why can't we just read the Bible and remember the story of the Exodus, remember the Babylon, remember all of that? To me, we don't need it. So if I were naming them, I wouldn't name them, but it wasn't me. I didn't name them. So in my book, there are 12 chapters, one for each month. And I've named them the first month, the second month, the third month, the whatever. But I've given the Babylonian name because that's the name that's on the calendar, so you can identify with it. And there are 12 months, and I'm not going to go through them all. You can read the book and find out all the names and what they all mean. So, because you know that in Exodus, Hashem tells Moshe that this month right here, will be the beginning of the year for you. It's the beginning of the year. And he says, for you. Well, think about what that must have meant to those Hebrew slaves. They hadn't owned anything. And all of a sudden, they were given a month. And it was going to be the beginning of the year for them. So those of us who want to follow the Torah and Hashem's laws and his way, why not go by the month that he gave us? The first month is Nisan. The first month, Aviv, which is spring. Doesn't it make more sense to have spring the first month when everything's blooming and all of that, rather than in the fall when everything's dying? You know? So anyway, and there's a couple of things that I want to highlight. And I'm going to go the first month and the last month. And there's lots in between. But in the first month, if you read the book, you'll see that they were slaves in Mitzrayim. Mitzrayim, for those who know Hebrew, is spelled with a double mem. It has a mem in the front and a mem in the back. The mem in the front looks kind of like, if I can draw it backwards like this, and has a little line underneath with the little hole. So they go in, here they go in, here they go in. We get to the end of the word. Oh, now it's closed. Now it looks like a box. You're in, you can't get out. You're in Mitzrayim, you're in bondage. So what does God do? He sends his prophet to take them out of bondage. I brought you out to bring you in. So, so we have Passover on the 15th. Passover and unleavened bread on the 14th and 15th. Those of you who do some of the traditions in Judaism know that there's something called a Seder. That Seder is order. It's a Jewish tradition, the whole Seder. But the Seder means order. You ask an Israeli, how are you doing? They'll go, a Seder. Everything's in order. Everything's in order. So, yes, in a Seder, everything is in order. And you go step by step. There's 15 steps. It's wonderful. I love the whole thing. Now, I do a shorter version. We don't sit at the table for 3 hours like lots of Jewish people do. But Hashem says, teach this to your children from generation to generation. Teach them that once we were slaves and then we were brought out. So you look at your own life. And so what are we supposed to learn from this? If we're supposed to sync the times and seasons with what's going on with us, look inside yourself and see, are there things in my life that are keeping me in bondage? Do I have things that I need to break out of? Just like the children of Israel broke out of Egypt because Hashem led them out. I have things in my life. So I think that it helps to have a physical application to a spiritual teaching. And one thing I'll tell you about Passover that I love, two things really. One is cleaning out the chametz, cleaning out the leaven in your heart, the leaven, things that make you think too highly of yourself, whatever, whatever. So I worked on that before I came here. I mean, for about a week it took me to get out all the leaven in my kitchen. And so as you're cleaning out and you're finding, there's a little piece of bread, there's a little piece of cracker, there's a little piece of what? What's in my life? What do I need to get rid of that's not of him? And the other thing is called, in the Seder, it's called the Hillel sandwich. So what you do, you take a piece of matzah, you put some horseradish on it. The horseradish stands for the bitterness, okay? put it on one. You take a piece of, you keep the matzah, you take some haroset, which is a mixture of apples and honey and cinnamon and wine, and it's so good. You put that on the other end. You put a top on it. You make a sandwich. You start eating. You eat the horseradish. I eat the horseradish first. That's the bitterness in your life. Oh my gosh, I can't breathe. The fumes, they're coming. Oh my gosh. I mean, it's really a sensation. It's a physical sensation of bitterness in your life. What do? Oh my gosh, I got to stop. I got to drink water. Oh, no, 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 no. No, you keep eating and eating. You get to the haroset. That is the antidote. So we just keep pushing through life. We just push through and we make it through. And who leads us all the way? Our Creator, because He loves us. The other thing, and I can say this really quick, is I'm going to go from the first month to the last month. So you have to read the book to get the middle. But the last month is the last month of the year that we just had. It's the 12th month. And in Hebrew, it's called Adar. I understand that in Hebrew, Adar has to do with the root word adir, which has to do with strength. It's kind of a long, detailed thing. I'm not going to go through it all. But the thing about Adar is that when I was a little girl, my daddy gave me a nickname. I was his little monkey. Okay, we were all animals. I was the monkey. Well, in Jewish mysticism, which I don't get into a lot, but there's some things that really meant a lot to me, and this did. There's a Hebrew letter that stands for every month. The Hebrew letter for Adar is a kuf. Kuf in Hebrew means little monkey. Okay, what month was I born? I was born in Adar. I was born on Rosh Chodesh on a Shabbat, the first of Adar. I was the little monkey. Okay, think about a little monkey. What does it do? It goes from branch to branch, hand to hand. It has to let go of the one branch before it goes to the next one. You can't hold, you got to keep going and going. And you let go, and then all of a sudden, oh my gosh, I see something. What am I going to do? I'm going to flip it around. I'm going to get on my tail. Just, you flip it around, you turn it upside down, but you just keep going and you get through it. And to me, that's the struggle of our lives, that we can't stop, that we just have to keep going and push through. And so we go through this whole circle. And as we're going through this circle, we think, and there's so much, I can't go through it all, but there's so much. When we feel like we're in the dark, turn up the rheostat. Hashem says He'll light our candle. He says our candle is the soul. And so let Him light your candle. Let it turn the dark into light. You can do it because He's there to do it for you. We each have a job to do, a purpose to fulfill. This book has become part of my purpose. I know you all have a purpose. It doesn't have to be a book. It can be anything. It can just be going around with a smile, loving people, being kind, whatever you can do for Him. And so as we end this month, or as we ended the last month, we go to the next month, this month, and we're going to go through the cycle again. It's like a circle, and we go round and round and round. And we can not only circle around, we can continue doing the same thing we did last year, or we can learn, standing on the shoulders of our ancestors. I love that. We can learn and we can grow, and we don't have to repeat the same mistakes again. And like a circle, we can circle around and we can spiral up higher and higher and higher. So to me, that's all what the hidden sparks are about. And there's a picture that I want to show you. I told you that I wanted to begin and end with a rainbow. And I didn't realize this connection. Roger was reading this book, was something for the Mashiach. I don't remember the exact name. But anyway, he was reading it. And you guys see those, the beautiful doors over there with the names of the tribes? Those were in my house, in our house, in front of our patio window. Roger was reading this book in front of those doors. The light was shining through those doors. It made a double rainbow. And what does it say? Can you read it? It talks about Israel being a singular band. The tribe of Israel and the tribes of Judah are going to come together and be a singular band. That's the whole purpose of this hidden spark of the whole book. We're all supposed to come together. And isn't that what UIW is all about? When Israel is one, then the world will be one. When the tribes return and join to Judah and bring all of us together, we're all going to be one. We're all going to be Echad. We will have completed the cycle of the seasons, the round of the year. Baruch Hashem. Okay.